Hello friends, welcome to another session of video tutorial on API testing using SoapUI or Ready API. This is part 9 of this series. In today's session we are going to cover DataGen and DataSink. If you like the videos on this channel, please subscribe, like, comment and share the videos. If you have any training inquiries, please contact me at techtrainerraj@gmail.com. Okay, let us start looking at DataGen and DataSink. For DataGen, I'm going to take a REST API website. For DataGen, I'm going to use this RESTful web service which gets and searches the states and territories of a country. Okay, so this is the one which I'm going to use for this DataGen. Okay, so DataGen will generate a random data from the list and feeds the data to this REST API. So let us take a look at what this REST API does. Okay, for that let me create a new project. Go to File, New Functional Test, and I'm going to provide the endpoint here. Click on Start. Copy this, which fetches all the states in India. I'm going to paste it here. Click on Next. Create a new project. So I'm going to take out these assertions for the time being. Okay, close this confirmation window. Okay, I have one request. I've created a new project. I have one request which will get all the states within India. So let me click on Send to get the data. Okay, so there are about 36 records in here, and then so each one has got different parameters like ID, country, name, abbreviation, area, largest city and capital. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a DataGen based on this abbreviation. So if you go back and look at this web service, I can also search based on state code. Okay, so basically by using DataGen, I'm going to provide these state code randomly. For that, I'm going to use this request. For that, I'm going to use this request. Copy this, and then I'm going to add another request instead, a REST request. So this time I'm going to call it as by state. Click on OK. Create a new request. I'm going to paste this URL, and at the last I'm going to have it as state code. Okay, so this will be a dynamic value which we will be getting it from DataGen. Click on OK. To add a DataGen, you have to right click on this test case. Again, go to Add Step. Click on DataGen. Okay, DataGen. I'm going to call it as by state. Click on OK. So now, since we are generating the data and feeding it to by state, so I'm going to push it before by state request. So let us click on DataGen by state. Okay, click on plus, specify the name as states, Okay, I'm going to have a list. Click on OK. Okay, so initial request gave us all the abbreviations, correct? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, paste it into a notepad, and I'm going to have some of these abbreviations, which is JK. I'm going to add it into DataGen. JK is one. The next one is JH. The next one is KA. The next one is KL. And then MP. MH. Okay, so let us work with this data first. Okay, I'm going to click on randomize so that it picks any of these from the list and then gives me the result for by state request. Okay, so let me close this notepad. Let us click on this. Okay, to test this, so first it has taken MH. So let me run this again. So now it has taken JH because we have clicked a randomized selection of value. So if I run it again, I should be getting something else. KL. Okay, again KA. Okay, so now this DataGen is working. So let us see how to make use of this generated data into our request. Let us select the request. So this uses a go to form. So here state code, I'm going to get the data from DataGen states. Click on add. Please watch earlier videos on how to select or add the data through this get data window. Okay, click on add. Okay, so let us click on send. So we have added the state code, fetching it from DataGen. Click on send. Okay, so right now I got one response. Okay, now this time it has picked up KA as our abbreviation. Okay, let me run the test case again. From here, it is going to go to DataGen step and then by state. Okay, so let me click. Let me go back. Okay, this time it has taken MH. Let me go back to test case and again run all the steps. This time it has taken JH. This is how we can use the DataGen, which generates the data and feeds it to one of the requests. Let us see how DataSync works. So what I'm going to do with the DataSync is, with DataSync, I am going to fetch the values from response and add it to a file. Okay, so let us add DataSync now. So we'll take the same example. Let me add a new step. For adding a new step, select the test case first. Right click, add step, and then click on DataSync. I'm going to call it as DataSync state details. Click on OK. So the order of the steps is very important. So first we are generating the data, fetching the data from the web service, and then we will be storing some of the data into a file. From this request, I'm extracting name, area and capital, and then store all these data into a file using DataSync. Okay, for that I have to create three properties here. Okay, click on add properties. The first one is name. Okay, I'm not going to have any value here. Click on add again. So area, and the third one is capital. Okay, so these three properties I have added because I want to fetch all these details like name, area and capital from the response. Okay, after adding three properties, for DataSync I am going to select file. Okay, so it will fetch these details. Okay, so this is the output file where it is going to store all the data into, and the separator you can specify a separator, so I'm going to leave it as default, which is comma, and the escape character as double quotes. So I'm going to leave everything as it is, but for providing a file we need to create one first. I'm going to click on browse, go to the destination folder. So here I'm going to create a new text file. So I'm going to call this as DataSync example.txt. Okay, click on open. So this is the destination file where it will store all the extracted values to. Okay, so let us see whether this is working first or not. Run. Since I don't have any data here, DataSync example. Okay, so it has created empty string here. Okay, so let us see how to combine these together now. Since this DataSync is using properties, okay, and the values should be fetched from this request and transferred to this DataSync, we need a property transfer step. So to add property transfer step, you need to click on the test case, right click, add step, go to property transfer. I'm going to call it as transfer details. Okay, so this transfer detail, make sure that it is after your request. Okay, so this is the request which is fetching all the data, and this is the one, the transfer detail step is the one which transfers certain extracted values from your request to DataSync. Okay, so let us configure transfer details now. So let us add one by one. So I'm going to add T name property. I'm going to add another one which is T area. Then I'm going to add another one which is called T capital. I have added three properties here. One is with the name, the other one is area, and the one is capital. So select T name From here the source is by state, which is correct, and the property which I'm going to fetch it from the response, since this is a REST call, so I'm also getting response as XML. So I'm going to select response as XML from the property, click on select XPath. Since this property is name, I'm going to select name, click on OK. Okay, so this is the source. From the source we are extracting the name, and what is the target? Target will be our DataSync. Okay, under DataSync, which is the property which it should map to, which is name. Okay, so that is all we have to do. Okay, the same thing I have to do it for area and capital also. So click on area, again select the source, property as response as XML. Okay, select the node through XPath. In this case it is area. Target will be your DataSync. Okay, the same way select capital. Again the request source is by state, property is response as XML. Select the node through XPath, which is capital. Okay, and target will be again DataSync capital. Okay, after creating these three properties, click on run all property transfers. So it will extract all these details from by state request and prints it here. So these are the transferred values from this particular request. Let me go back and run all the steps so that we can see what gets stored into our text file. So select the test case again, run all the steps. Okay, so here by state request has run and it has used MP, and the transfer details in this case is okay, Madhya Pradesh and this and Bhopal. Okay, so the DataSync, it has added these values. The same value should be in the text file also. Let us go back and check. So this is the text file where it stores all the values. Okay, so it has stored all these values. So this is how we can make use of DataSync and DataGen. So within this test case, DataGen has generated a value. That value is fed to this by state code, the response from the web service. This transfer detail will extract the name, area and capital, and then it transfers it to DataSync. DataSync will in turn write those extracted details into a text file. I'm going to slightly modify this test case so that it becomes a data-driven testing using Excel. This is the test case which I'm going to automate now. It reads the data from Excel sheet first and sends the request, fetches name, area and capital from the response, adds the details to text file, repeats this for all the data from Excel sheet. So as a first step, let us create our Excel sheet with the data in it. Okay, so open up Excel sheet. Okay, so this I'm going to call it as state code. Sheet, and I'm going to have all the states here. state. Okay, so this is my header. Since I have 36 state, I'm going to add all the states here. Okay, so let me add one by one. So where do I get it from? I get it from the first request. From request 1, send. I should be getting all these details from here. From the response, I have extracted all the abbreviations and I have created a new Excel sheet with this data in it. The sheet, I called it as state code, and the header is state, and I have added all the states which I extracted it from the first request, which we added into this particular project. Okay, so let us save this. Save as save it as state.xlsx. Okay, I saved it. To make it as data driven, under this test case I need to have a data source. To add a data source, right click on this test case and then select add step and then go to data source. Okay, so I'm going to call it as state data source. Click on OK, and then it says create a data driven loop based on this data source and configure test step automatically. Click on S. Okay, the request which it is going to use is not request 1 but by state. Okay, so make sure you select by state because this is the request which is going to use the data fetched from Excel sheet now. Okay, click on OK. So now we have to modify this. So what I have done is I have moved this transfer details and data sync inside the loop. So now the step will be, now I'm not going to use DataGen anymore because I have added data source. So it will fetch the data from data source, which is Excel sheet, and then it will pass the same to by state. From by state it will fetch certain details from the response and it will transfer all those details into DataSync, which will write all those details into a particular file, and this loop will get repeated for the number of data available in this data source. Okay, so let us go and configure data source now. Okay, property is state code, and I'm going to select data source as Excel sheet. Okay, after selecting data source as Excel sheet, click on browse, select the Excel sheet which you have just created. Okay, go to say OK, clear all existing properties, yes. So worksheet name is state code. Okay, click on OK. Okay, let us run this and see whether it fetches any data. Okay, so it has fetched all these data. Provide the Excel sheet worksheet as state code. And where is our data starting from? The data is starting from A2, which is, this is the first data, so it is starting at A2. So I'm going to change this to A2. Okay, so let us run this and see whether it is fetching the data or not. Okay, click on this. Okay, so it has fetched all the state from the Excel sheet. So since we have created this property which fetches all the data from Excel sheet, that has to be transferred to our by state request. So instead of using DataGen now, delete this. I am going to use DataSource now. Get data and select state data source and then select state, click on add. Okay, so let me send a request. Okay, so it has selected Nagaland, which is the last one in our list. Okay, and then we have already checked, all the transfer details and DataSync are working fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the test case now and run all the steps now. Okay, so go back to our test tab and click on run. So now as you can see, it is running. It is fetching the data from data source and it is running them one by one. Okay, whatever the data which is fetched from this request should be going ultimately to this particular text file. Let us go back and verify whether all the data has been fetched and put it into a text file. The text file which it is going to put is a DataSync example. Let us open up and see. Now, as you can see, it has fetched all the data and transferred this to this particular file using DataSync. Okay, so far we have successfully automated this particular test case. So this is how we can make use of DataGen, DataSource and DataSync together to form a data-driven test case. That is the end of today's session. I'm going to provide all the URL which I have used for this particular test case in the description of the video. Thanks for watching. Please stand by for more videos on this particular channel. And don't forget to subscribe.